talking. Écoutez-moi pas, c'est un test de son. Bye, là!
Listen to me talking quietly. How am I gonna let you get away from my arms? But I can see you are fooling me. Even whenever I wanna make you love me better, you walk away, you carry on. You only ever love me when you wanted some fun. I'm laughing now, what do you think of that? I know I maybe try to call you frequently, but don't worry now, cause you're boring me. Could never really love me cause I couldn't stay back. I let you go, I'm thinking that I wanna hear you say that you let me down. I'll make it up, I'll make it up to you. I wanna hear you say you let me down. I'll make it up, I'll make it up to you. Make it up to you, make it up to you. Make it up, I'll make it up. Make it up, make it up. Make it up, make it up. Make it up, make it up. I'll make it up, 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 make it up. I'll make it up to you, make it up to you, make it up, make it up, make it up. I'll make it up to you, make it up to you, make it up to you.
Hello everyone, bienvenue tout le monde. On est vraiment excités d'être à Pop Montréal cette année en présentiel et en ligne avec vous via le live stream. Allô tout le monde. Une des choses qui est extraordinaire avec ce qui est en train de se passer à Montréal, c'est que vous le savez, en culture, on a perdu beaucoup de nos endroits puis de nos manières de se rassembler puis de performer notre art, que ce soit la lecture, la musique. Puis le fait que Pop Montréal ait annoncé cette année qu'il faisait une présentation, une année à la fois en présentiel puis en ligne, ça nous rend extrêmement contents. Donc, on est content d'être là. Vous saurez que dans la salle, il y a les lectrices lecteurs, puis quelques amis, bien sûr, à distanciation acceptable. Welcome, everyone. It's so nice to see you in a room, to see you at Rialto, and we'll be able to hear you all around, read and read and read. Why we're all together today? It's because we have a partnership now with Pop Montréal for 3 years. Le partenariat, c'est avec Archives Montréal. C'est l'organisme qui s'occupe d'Exposine, de la grande, de la foire volume. Donc, c'est un organisme qui fait beaucoup pour les petits éditeurs. So that's how we chose the readers for tonight. They all are from small presses, chapbooks, zines, and they write beautifully, and I could not be more excited to hear them read. Je pense que j'aimerais ça faire un land acknowledgement. Vous savez qu'on est présentement à Montréal, à Jingchongahe, puis qu'il y avait énormément de nations qui vivaient ici, qui vivent encore ici. Puis on est honorés de pouvoir festoyer avec eux et grâce à eux. C'est ici qu'on se réunit. Merci Art Pop, merci Pop Symposium, merci Pop Montréal, merci Archives Montréal de nous permettre ça aussi. Je vais revenir vous raconter plein de choses tantôt, but I think we should start with the reading right now. So I'm really excited to present you the first guest. I'm so sorry, I'll have to move with my book. C'est ça qui arrive quand on a juste 2 mains, hein, gang? All right. Woo! Okay. So, David Bradford, he's a poet and an editor based here in Taipei, Montreal. His work has appeared in numerous magazines and revues. And his first book, not chapbook, book, is coming. It's forthcoming with Brick Books, Dream of No One But Myself. David is here too because he is the co-publisher with Anahita Jamali Rad of House Press, and we decided to do a spotlight on them tonight with 3 readers. Welcome, David.
J'ai ma petite procédure avec le micro. Okay. Bonjour tout le monde. Je vais lire en anglais, juste pour qu'on le sache. This is called Seance Repair. If the force only seemed real off after the videos, all the broaching clocks over here. Don't leave me the moment to turn back my hand either. Twice a day I've been coming around just right. Twice a day I'm grounded up. Twice a day I'm fudged over a long while. But I see you read up on me like a book, curdled up in your old breeding nook. Our voices lingering just so have really spoken to you. So you are checking in just so. Down with the new immortals. Always broke, never poor, up on the lingo, amplitude and gesture for our undead in the parlor, tributes on your every wall, not quite just the likenesses, soulful in the sallows, bodied for the lectern, resting in power, no knock warrant, black square, just to look through me when you say that. Goddamn, utter, fucking hashtag. Whose tongues to trust at all? So that's something that's not from the rest of the stuff that I'll be reading tonight, but it's a little something that I wrote in June when things were kicking up again with, I guess, people noticing the cops were doing cop things all the time. And I guess it was a weird time to have people check in on you in weird ways, and I kind of wanted to, I don't know, try to shift some things around that a little bit. I will be reading from, as Catherine has said, merci Catherine, my book that's coming out next year, which is kind of, I don't know, intense. And it's kind of a big hybrid poetry, interdisciplinary, whatever, about, I guess, my abuse as a child, but also my father's abuse as a child, my mother's abuse at the hands of my father. And kind of coming out of the other end of that, not fully having come out of the other end of that, and just thinking about what are the limitations and the possibilities for actually writing about that. So I'll be like jumping around to all kinds of different forms to give you a kind of sense of what that kind of ended up looking like on the page. Un vent pour écorner les bœufs. And she keeps saying it's all this time been her mother's, as in venting or vain, an acorn, less for corning and in vain, or cornered bowing, per a corned beef, a wind for dehorning steers. She said it again and again, and now I hear it by myself down Palmerston. She said an acorn biffing, I hear it blow down Euclid. Events by corn and hoofing, by laundry up Clinton, by gust and howling to keep pace with. Ma petite cocotte, she'd call me. My petite cup of tannins, pitting the storm drains. My personal fruit for another shorter day. My father's last ever room in my godparents' basement in Hatboro, Pennsylvania, is smaller than his old office, my teenage room, and my mother's basement. A Red Sox all-star jersey hangs off an exposed pipe headed to the septic tank. The ensuite bathroom is Marines themed, courtesy of his basement roommates, down to the towels and shower curtain. His tattered Paradise Lost, still an eye roll on the nightstand. The sound of the roommates, meanwhile, on the other side of the wall, cleaning a couple of clinking handguns. Before bedtime, he shows me his mini stash of Klondike bars. My mother, conked out from the drive, already asleep upstairs. Blazing Saddles on TBS. What left asking a different other us? A mutual last try, rid of, clean and over. A tired, fail to give, get better after or out. What might be done for it might cease to be just as little as wanted. This is actually a little COVID poem because we all have them now. Zoom, zoom. Dawn, and in droplets too, our hosiery and the horse face, our bestilledness and cut crease up on all of it, and yet my order for trail shoes, our ascent around the apartment, our Thundercat for the markets, in a pinch into the terrain, Looky, a tiny painter painted in big paints, old back to bed, a scroll though very brightly, a little pose for the canyon's edge. Just like that, a walk but dirty, the sponge in the microwave, the doorknob regiment again. Think all the limbs out of frame. and many more heading out now, and still with every trace. Next episode, the latest package, another big protein shake. And the 5 minutes before the washing away, our last dance, Mr. Blackhead. Not tired at all, the tea that never gets made. This is called Slick in the Dimples. I'll only mention the Slick in the Dimples for those who are old enough to remember watching Star Search as kids. Was a white country hip-hop group that appeared on Star Search a bunch. Slick in the Dimples. Look a lot like winning on the TV, and becomes my primetime name and calling at the break, styling me the man's wee star searching pattern, two-face and trick, and his ain't ever quiet, his insoluble little yap, congenital little skid, his zygotic lip and smacking calls me scuzzlebutt, his Dopplered snorts and stock his not quite unoriginal mark made, calls me my father's son, and no other word but I could kill him. Young man, and I'm storming the whole den, calls me mouth, I better recognize, his could snap like a twig. Reminds my arm like one, first time I make a fist, and the man stops laughing. The one chip off the old block, Mr. Eyeball to eyeball, and his gene for an ass whooping, fights my gene for restraint. The things he never failed to declare cultural, which I couldn't help but be taught. The things I learned to switch on and had to, the years it took to switch them off. Exactly enough of this behest handed down. Ever a cut twee, a thickness, a never quite dange, picking at while to will my bones, my exactly should be, my ever so thick or too far. Les yeux dans graisse de bine. Lest my very own Grecian hue don the grays of the densest spines, or when my ewe graced dances, my lesser beans behind, packs it in for the night. The way she places both dans le même trou, her eyes in the same hole, and points out mine, bothered with every stare, are like his were, ailing with every yawn, baneful as the man's crow's feet, grousing the corners out. Tu bailles au corneille, she sighs, clicking both bedside lights off, the motel clicker still flickering through the sports channels. The last place I saw or spoke to my father was a 12th floor room at the Days Inn by the Trudeau Airport 9 years ago. My jaw still clenching from the drive back from Burlington. His hug and demand that I call him, I love you, son. My secret resolve to never see him again. And I couldn't bring myself to say it back. Could I say it now? If I could bring myself back to it, would I say Dad? Now may have done my wee own count fed snow, how my palm fits nah. What a thought second voice clicking in, just what rise kept keeping. Said what would mean, well, the little remains I'm still walking around in. Thank you.
Finalement, j'avais besoin de bureau. Donc, je m'en suis fabriqué un. Merci tellement, David. That's one of the things that I missed the most. Having someone read to you so close or through your computer, hearing the words, being rocked by them. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. À Montréal, on a la chance d'avoir une ville bilingue. Puis c'est assez rare qu'on se rencontre dans les mêmes salles pour les lectures parce que ça l'exige un public complètement bilingue. Mais comme quand on va voir un festival international de poésie, par exemple, des fois, on ne comprend pas la personne qui lit en arménien ou qui lit je ne sais pas, en japonais, mais on entend quand même la musicalité des mots. Donc ça, c'est quelque chose d'extraordinaire. C'est aussi un endroit où we're blessed to hear spoken word and poetry and reading and small presses. This is so great. Tantôt, j'étais bien énervée, fait que j'ai oublié de vous montrer les livres de House Press. And I know that they got 3 more coming, like soon, really soon. And I'm really excited about that because we're going to have some extract from them. Mais avant, je vais vous présenter notre prochaine invitée qui, elle aussi, a beaucoup travaillé en zine depuis très, très longtemps. C'est d'ailleurs comme ça la première fois que je l'ai rencontrée, sous son pseudonyme de zinister, Sushana Bikini London. Je vais sortir sa petite bio. On travaille dessus avec la technologie, non, mais tu bien. Donc, effectivement, elle s'appelle Lucille de Peslouan, puis elle a commencé à publier en zine. C'est des textes intimes, directs, poétiques, engagés. Puis, de ces zines-là est né son manifeste féministe dont vous avez probablement entendu parler, « Pourquoi les filles ont mal au ventre ». C'est sorti chez Isatis sous un livre illustré. Ça a eu un énorme succès, illustré par Geneviève Darling. Puis depuis ce temps-là, il y a eu je l'ai perdu, ça sera pas long, qui s'en vient, C'est quoi l'amour, qui s'en vient en octobre, juste là? Ah, ça c'est excitant, tabarouette. Puis, elle a eu chez Rodrigol aussi les histoires de Sushana Bikini London, qui est une espèce de beau condensé de toutes les petits zines de Sushana qu'on avait eu la chance de lire ou de voir passer. Donc, je suis très excitée de l'avoir sur la scène avec nous aujourd'hui, Lucille de Peslouan.
Bonsoir. Alors, je vais vous lire Les Puces, qui est un de mes plus récents fanzines. J'ai acheté un spirographe. La boîte est cabossée, mais à l'intérieur, tout y est, même les épingles. Je lui montre, regarde, un spirographe. J'en avais un quand j'étais petite, j'adore. Je ne sais plus où il est passé. Tu crois que ta mère l'a jeté avec toutes tes autres affaires ? Sûrement, je réponds. Son regard est narquois. Elle se demande, suis-je allée trop loin ? Mais non. Je dédramatise, je ris, jaune, j'avoue, parce que je repense à mon camion de Barbie, à mes livres, à mes poupées, à mes disques. J'aurais aimé décider. Je ris jaune, et là, maintenant, je joue avec mon spirographe. Je suis un peu déçue, ce n'est pas la même chose. Je croyais que c'était un cyclographe. Une boîte de livres. J'ai déjà trop de livres. J'achète plus de livres que je ne lis, et je lis beaucoup, c'est vous dire si c'est vrai. Mais au-dessus de cette boîte de livres, Hannibal. Ça alors, je suis transportée. Bibliothèque de mon village, parquet foncé qui craque, moquette brune au mur, étouffant le silence. Hannibal, je l'ai lu une dizaine de fois. Sur le carton d'emprunt, mon nom était partout. J'ai 14 ans, 15 ans, 16 ans. Hannibal est un enfant adopté, un petit Inca. Il vient de loin. J'apprends dans ce livre qu'on peut réguler sa respiration sur celle de quelqu'un d'autre, et vice-versa. J'apprends dans ce livre qu'on peut faire mourir quelqu'un dans son sommeil juste en respirant près de lui. Une boîte de livres, j'ai déjà trop de livres, mais celui-ci est enfin à moi. Je suis toute nue sous mon pull, j'aime porter la laine à même la peau. C'est la pub Myrlaine, celle des années 90. C'est les femmes, celles que je vois à la télé, fières, fortes, sexy, les working girls, celles qui portent des vêtements de qualité. Je touche le pull. La matière est douce, la couleur est claire. Il est trop grand pour moi. Des mains peuvent facilement se glisser entre ma peau et la laine. Je suis la pub Myrlène, celle des années 90. Julien Ball mesure 1,47 m, chose du 36 et pèse 39 kg. J'ai dans les mains son agenda de poche. Je tremble un peu. 1936. Je connais maintenant ses notes en religion, en histoire, en géographie, en dessin et même en gymnastique. Je connais ses dépenses et quand ont eu lieu ses cours de flamand, en cas d'urgence, il veut qu'on prévienne ses parents. Pour lui, si j'étais un animal, je serais un dauphin. Elle me dit ça un soir au parc, un dauphin. Et moi, je serais quoi si j'étais un animal ? Un chat, une panthère, une tigresse, un léopard, un jaguar, une lionne. Non, je serais un sphinx. Alors un matin, dans notre cuisine, devant notre café, moi aussi je demande à mon copain, et moi, je serais quoi si j'étais un animal ? Une maman kangourou, sans hésiter. Il a dit une maman kangourou. Tu mets tout dans tes poches, tes cailloux, tes secrets, tes carnets, tu mets tout dans tes poches comme une maman kangourou. Je ne me voyais pas comme un kangourou, mais ça me plaît. Une maman kangourou qui met ses bébés dans sa poche. Par terre, il y avait un domino. Elle m'a dit « Regarde ». Oui, ça me portera chance. Dans ma poche, il s'est glissé. Merci.
Merci beaucoup. Une des autres choses qui est vraiment plaisante, c'est d'avoir lu les hymnes, puis qu'après de les entendre être lus par l'autrice, l'auteur, par la personne qui les a écrits, parce que ça donne tout à fait un autre ton, puis c'est merveilleux. Est-ce que je me suis placée correctement? Tantôt, je m'étais placée tout croche. Je m'excuse au monde à la maison. Ils m'ont fait des X en plus pour que je fasse pas ça, mais je suis une rebelle. Je me suis pas mis au bon endroit. Je m'excuse. The next guest, it's something really excited because when you do a reading like that, you work with publishers and with people that have been through Exposine or with small presses that gonna ask their next readers to read for us. So that's really exciting because sometimes you meet person that you hadn't met before, and now you can't wait to hear them read, and that's what's happening now. So I'm really glad that the next reader is Hélène Shaw-Bradley, a writer, a musician, an art administrator living in Chicoquet, Montreal. Their work has appeared in a lot of magazines, Carte Blanche, Cosmonaut Avenue, Entropy Magazine, Maisonneuve, Rice Paper, and elsewhere. And Personal Attention Role Play, a collection of short stories. It's forthcoming from Metonymy Press in the fall 2021. But to make us wait, automatic object lessons, or the poetry chapbook that is forthcoming with Us Press is going to be arriving very, very soon. So cannot wait to hear you read Hélène Shaw-Bradley.
Bonjour. Merci pour l'introduction, Catherine. I'm going to read in English. Je vais lire quelques poèmes du chapbook qui vient d'être mentionné, qui va être publié par House Press. So thank you to David and Anahita for publishing me. This one's called Vacancy. Oh, the thing to know about these poems is that they are collages of phrases that were generated by Duolingo, which you may know of, which is a language learning app. I was trying to learn Portuguese, but instead I just wrote some silly poems. Okay. Vacancy. The days are getting longer. The population wants jobs. There are no vacant apartments. The people love freedom. Don't they listen? We sit, we eat, we turn towards the professor. The man is important. It is a large commission. What do you choose? He sends a response. We are good people. Sit in those chairs, my children. Learn quickly. The man is important. The woman is responsible. He is cruel to animals, but is she a real mother? Her wedding dress is not white. The population leaves the country. The woman is responsible. Yes, it's simple. Her wedding dress is not white. Is she a real mother? The man is important. He speaks. We listen. Not responsible. I am young. I am not a foreigner. I want the biggest cake. My farm is bigger. My grandfather, he gave me $1. The biggest cake. The community thinks we are not responsible. We burned the fields. We bought the sky, the clouds. Is it an old dog? Is it an old horse? They are different. They are worse. We wash our hands. We wake up late. We wash ourselves of, I don't need soap. I need terms and conditions, a golden window. There are flies in those boots. There is something wet. Must be oil on my shirt. Who is drinking from my pockets? The dog licks the handle. Do not think about that. I grill the meat. I am good at it. I do not think about it. A bad man. Meat isn't necessary. She is a person, and she understands him. She saw him and left because organized the files. Known him since I was young. Those stories aren't true, and besides, it's worse for him. We read it in the national paper. Those letters are personal. Is it the worst? She needed a family structure. She saw him, and he sees her. I will follow you. I love you. I love you. Am I a bad man? She left because prepare the lunch. Which is the best case scenario, and which is the worst? Dry the kitchen floor. You need to be positive. We read it in the magazine. Those letters are personal. How do we know they are true? Is he a bad man? Is he ugly? She told him no and left. The storm tomorrow. We saw him running. She left. Because? Grill the meat. Pass the bottle. Because. The final moment is necessary. I'll just read a couple more. Will we grow old? Today I will eat less sugar. We wake up late. I read the newspaper for you. You don't want to live with me, I know. In winter, the table is bigger. You are always sick. You are always busy. I want to eat with you today, but those lamps are ugly, and I want more milk and more than milk. My grandparents loved birds and potatoes. They loved each other until nighttime. You speak to your grandfather in your bedroom. You close the door quickly. You are always sick. You are always busy. This weather is no good for our association. You are my people, but a family is unfamiliar, especially for us. We want, and want. And this one's called When Winter Began. It started to snow when you were leaving. It snowed a lot in the field. The trimesters are short. I want to sleep in a cloud. I won't travel because of the storm. I will grill meat, for the nights are long. This house is spacious. You were talking with my friend on the computer, at the restaurant. I was walking through the vestibule when she called me. The people, yes, they're real. Everyone is writing books. They are kissing, and so are we. My friend says she loves you a lot. How often do you see her? I bet she always turns off the coffee maker after making the coffees. We always slept late on Sundays. We only showered at night, never in the afternoon. A double room. Why did you leave? I was going to tell you something. Yes, it's important, but today is a different day. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Hello, people. Notre prochaine invitée, avais-tu déjà remarqué, Marie, que toute ta collection est d'un rose magnifique? C'est magique. Donc, comme ça marche ça? Je deviens une championne de l'Internet. Bonjour, Internet, grand-maman l'apprend. Donc, notre prochaine invitée, on s'est croisés dans plein d'endroits parce que toutes les deux, on écrit bilingue, puis on étudie à Concordia en anglais, puis après ça, on s'est croisés dans les milieux de la poésie francophone. Donc, vous voyez, elle a des hymnes. Son premier, c'est un des premiers Metatron Press qui est sorti. Et puis, ces deux derniers sont à l'écrou puis chez Remue Ménage en français. Une des choses que j'aime de toute son écriture, c'est que c'est quelqu'un qui travaille vraiment une espèce d'esthétique de l'intimité, un peu rentre dans ta face, mais qui est aussi tellement universelle. Hey, je vais faire de l'anecdote, es-tu prête? Donc, quand je fais des visites d'école au secondaire, un des recueils avec lequel on travaille le plus, c'est Filles de Marie d'Arzini, parce que les élèves s'identifient beaucoup, puis c'est vraiment des fragments, puis c'est extraordinaire, puis ça leur fait vraiment travailler qui ils sont. Puis j'ai bien hâte de l'entendre lire, parce que ça fait très longtemps que je ne l'ai pas entendu derrière un micro. Je suis bien énervée. Marie d'Arzini.
Moi aussi, Catherine, j'espère que je me place bien parce que j'écoutais comme pas, là, tantôt, quand vous avez expliqué. Mais bonjour tout le monde, bonsoir. Merci d'être ici. Merci aux organisateurs, aux organisatrices. Donc, je vais lire de 30. J'ai vraiment hésité, je ne savais pas qu'est-ce que j'allais lire. Puis là, j'ai réalisé que ça faisait 2 ans déjà que 30 est sorti. Ouais. Il y a un autre livre qui s'en vient, mais ça a été vraiment difficile ces temps-ci pour moi d'écrire. Je ne sais pas pour les gens qui écrivent si ça vous a aidé ou le contraire, mais moi, c'est comme le contraire. Donc, c'est ça, je vais lire le début de 30. Une dernière chose, je vais regarder parce que sinon... OK. Je n'ai rien écrit depuis 1 semaine. Je n'ai rien écrit depuis que j'ai eu 29 ans. C'est le désert littéraire, la sécheresse totale. D'ailleurs, je devrais mentionner que j'ai aussi arrêté de boire, mais ça, c'est une autre histoire. Parfois, dans cette semaine creuse, j'ai pensé à des mots. Il y a même des débuts de phrases qui se sont formés derrière mon front. J'ai senti un début d'inspiration, puis quand j'ai enfin réussi à en venir à une formulation, je me suis rendu compte que c'était quelque chose qu'Elizabeth Wurtzel avait déjà écrit. Si ce n'est pas Elisabeth, alors c'était Nelly ou Marie-Cécile, je ne sais plus, Mes muses sont nombreuses, mais souvent interchangeables. Je les appelle par leurs petits noms et j'en viens à oublier qui a dit quoi à force de me répéter leurs mots comme des litanies. La triste vérité, c'est que mes muses préférées sont déprimées. C'est vrai en anglais avec Angelina Jolie et Elizabeth Wurtzel, mais c'est aussi vrai en français avec Nelly Arcan et Marie-Cécile Labrèche, mortes ou déprimées. Ça fait une semaine que j'ai 29 ans et on m'a dit « Tu vas voir, ça va passer ». Mais je me demande qu'est-ce qui se passe au juste. Tout passe, mais rien ne se passe jamais bien car je ne fais que m'enfoncer. C'est Nelly qui l'a dit. Très tôt, j'ai compris que dans la vie, il fallait être heureux et depuis, je vis sous pression. La pression me paralyse, me rend amorphe, une larve. D'ailleurs, le jour de mes 29 ans, j'ai fait l'étoile sur mon lit. 29 années à regarder le plafond, j'ai attendu de prendre une décision. Les décisions et moi, c'est toujours compliqué. J'hésite pour savoir quelle saveur de crème glacée choisir. Les employés du Dairy Queen me détestent. Ou pour ensuite choisir entre vivre ou mourir. Ceux qui m'aiment finiront par me détester à force de s'inquiéter. Alors j'ai pris la non-décision d'aller faire l'étoile ailleurs, chez ma mère, petite fille sandwich de 29 ans, encore prise entre ses deux parents. En faisant l'étoile, je me suis endormie et j'ai souhaité dormir pour l'éternité. Mais j'étais inconfortable, ma couverture piquait un peu mes cuisses ou alors c'était peut-être les moustiques. J'ai cité Fiona Apple dans ma tête. I'm good at being uncomfortable, so I can't stop changing all the time. Des années passées à chercher des façons d'aller mieux. Puis j'ai cité Elizabeth Wurtzel à voix haute. I am always trying to go to that imaginary somewhere or to get to that imaginary something. My life has been one long longing. Une vie entière à attendre qu'il se passe quelque chose, mais quoi au juste? Toute cette première journée de juillet, j'ai eu 29 ans. On m'a souhaité bonne fête à plusieurs reprises, sauf qu'à partir de demain et pendant les 364 jours prochain, tout le monde passera à autre chose pendant que ma tête, elle, me rappellera inlassablement le temps qui passe. Ma tête ne me souhaite pas bon anniversaire, elle dit plutôt des choses du genre « tu es laide et moche et vieille et conne et tu n'as rien accompli. À ton âge, Elizabeth Wurtzel avait déjà un best-seller à son actif. » Mon cerveau tient un compte à rebours constant, une minuterie avant que le presto saute, que ça éclabousse les murs. Après avoir fait l'étoile assez longtemps, je suis retournée chez moi. Merci, maman, le gazon était moelleux. Merci, maman, mon verre d'eau était froid. Merci, maman, tes mots étaient gentils. Et finalement, merci, maman, de m'avoir mise au monde. Ce n'est pas de ta faute si tu as une fille crabe, une cancer de bord de mer. Je suis rentrée chez moi dans ma Saturn 1998 qui fonctionne encore, 10 ans à conduire une auto qui est parfois un refuge pour pleurer sur la route où personne ne me voit. C'est plus privé que dans le métro, quoique je suis aussi spécialiste de pleurer dans le métro. Je suis spécialiste de pleurer en public en général, spécialiste de pleurer pour un public, comme Angelina Jolie dans Gia, comme n'importe quelle belle fille au cinéma qui laisse les larmes couler sans tordre la bouche ou renifler, donc j'ai conduit. Cassette de Madonna, un McDonald's, un SO, cassette de Fiona Apple. Puis j'étais de nouveau chez moi. Je me suis dit, j'ai 29 ans. Et j'ai pleuré sur mon hasard, mon karma, mon destin de vie que je ne comprends pas. J'ai pleuré ma vie de 29 ans de fête, pourtant parfaite jusqu'à maintenant. Les feux d'artifice sont pour toi, Marie. C'est ce qu'on me disait chaque 1er juillet. J'ai eu des feux d'artifice, j'ai eu du gâteau fait maison, j'ai eu tout ce qu'une enfant de la classe moyenne pouvait désirer. À 18 ans, j'ai eu un surprise party dans la cour arrière chez mes parents avec de l'alcool acheté par eux-mêmes, même si j'étais maintenant en âge de le faire moi-même. À 19 ans, je me suis fait arrêter par la police et j'ai pleuré jusqu'à en avoir les yeux rouges, comme le drapeau du Canada. Pour mes 20 ans, j'avais des bras en allumettes et on a voulu me nourrir avec un gâteau qui avait mon nom dessus. Pour célébrer l'effort de mes amis, j'ai mangé, moi qui d'habitude ne mangeais jamais. Pour mes 21 ans, j'ai découvert les mojitos et j'ai voulu aller chez Paris, mais personne ne voulait m'accompagner. Alors j'ai embrassé mon meilleur ami et je me suis couchée. À 22 ans, j'ai décidé que j'étais assez majeure pour fêter aux États-Unis. J'ai vu des feux d'artifice là-bas aussi, mais pas exactement le jour de ma fête, plutôt 3 jours plus tard pour leur fête à eux. J'étais à New York avec Marina Abramovic. J'ai pleuré, je vous l'ai dit, je pleure tout le temps. Pour mes 23 ans, j'ai organisé un Sweet 16 parce que tout le monde aime la jeunesse et les chapeaux de fête. Tout le monde aime prendre trop de drogue et boire trop d'alcool pour finir à 7 heures du matin à pleurer qu'on a les mollets vraiment trop petits, que c'est une aberration et que personne ne va jamais nous aimer. Pour mes 24 ans, j'ai tapissé mes murs de papier d'emballage argenté du Dollarama, comme à la factory de Warhol, ce man-child que je déteste, #Team Solonas. Même si c'est un peu fort de le dire, j'adore répéter que life in this society being at best an utter bore and no aspect of society being at all relevant to women, there remains to civic-minded, responsible, thrill-seeking females only to overthrow the government, eliminate the money system, institute complete automation and destroy the male sex. Vraiment simple. Et dans ma fête festive à la Warhol, j'ai invité mes amis à me regarder boire du champagne entre deux hoquets mouillés causés par la peur d'atteindre bientôt un quart de siècle. Mes 25 ans sont de loin les plus mémorables, une fête jamais égalée, parce qu'il y a eu de la magie, des crayons Sharpie et un bar qui a fermé depuis, je garde le secret. Ma fête de 26 ans, en comparaison, était plutôt moche. Tout ce que je voulais, c'était une poutine, alors je suis allée au Rapido, lui aussi fermé depuis. Au Rapido, j'ai découvert que la poutine pouvait être décevante. Tout est décevant quand on a de la négativité dans les yeux. Pour mes 27 ans, j'ai exigé que tout le monde s'habille en jeans de la tête aux pieds, Canadian Tuxedo, 1er juillet. On a cuit des choses sur le barbecue, même si je n'aime pas la viande. J'ai fait une exception et j'ai noyé ça dans la Miller Lime, un torrent de bière pour la végétarienne déchue. Pour mes 28 ans, je me suis enfermée dans les toilettes où j'avais préalablement caché un livre en dessous du lavabo, un livre spécial, un roman tout égratigné avec des traînées de poudre blanche dessus. Je suis loin d'être un exemple. Cachez vos enfants, ce n'est surtout pas en vieillissant que ça va aller, en s'améliorant. Et voilà, maintenant j'arrive à 29 ans. Mes 29 ans, c'était il y a une semaine et je n'ai rien écrit depuis. Ou peut-être juste ce petit texte-là pour dire que j'approche désormais dangereusement de mes 30 ans. Si je pouvais retourner dans le temps, je sourirais à ma mère, je sourirais à mon père, je sourirais à mes amis qui sont venus chez moi le jour de mes 29 ans pour me regarder avoir l'air bête. Si je pouvais retourner en arrière, j'essaierais juste d'être une bonne fille, une good girl, comme le chante Drake. Mais tout le monde sait que la good girl n'existe pas. C'est un mensonge, un mythe, un mirage dans le désert de la féminité. Je n'ai rien contre l'utilisation du mot fille au lieu de femme. Moi, ça me convient bien de posséder la jeunesse éternelle. Je veux me faire tatouer Miss sur le front et Good Girl sur la poitrine. Je veux être cette bonne fille qui deviendra une bonne mère ou une bonne femme. I just want to be a good woman, chante Cat Power, mais j'y pense. La Good Girl, c'est peut-être la même fille que The Girl with the Most Cake. Ça, c'est Courtney Love qui le dit, et je la crois. S'il y a une journée pour être la fille avec le plus gros morceau de gâteau, c'est assurément le jour de sa fête. Merci.
Merci. C'est un des textes que j'aime beaucoup de 30 et puis je suis vraiment contente qu'on puisse fêter cet anniversaire-là ensemble. Il va falloir que je retrouve ma page, je m'excuse mes choux. OK. Donc, on est réunis ici à cause de Pop Montréal, alors Pop Symposium, mais aussi par Archives Montréal. Archives Montréal, ils ont 3 grosses activités. Celle qu'on connaît le plus, puis pour laquelle on est ensemble, puis par laquelle on s'est rencontrés pour la plupart d'entre nous, c'est Exposine, qui est la plus grande foire de petits éditeurs. On est-tu encore en Amérique du Nord? Tellement, hein? Oh, yes. North America's biggest small, oh yeah, bilingual all the way. And the next Exposine is coming really fast, guys. We have the dates. We haven't put them anywhere. You're going to be the first one to hear them. November 28th and 29th. If things are going the way that they are going now, we're going to try to do like Pop Montreal and do an hybrid edition. A little bit online, a little bit together. So that's really exciting because you were talking about your birthday, Marie, and this is going to be my 40th birthday weekend. Okay, enough about me, people. The next reader, I've never heard him read. That's really exciting, too. With Exposine, we've been working with that Montreal publisher for years and years now, Vehicle Press. If you don't know them, they're great. They've been here forever, and they publish great books. And they published that first book by William Vallière. It's called Verse, and I'm really excited because it's going to be the first time that I'm going to hear it, but I'm not sure if William is going to be extract from it, so I should not say that, right, William? Yeah! So we're going to hear a little bit of that and a little bit of something else, because his work have also appeared in Best Canadian Poetry 2009, The Walrus, Grain, Event, and Plenitude. It's with pleasure that we have him on the stage, a real stage, here in Chenchoke. Come on in, William Vallière.
Merci beaucoup. Tall person. Can you hear me? Yeah? Okay. Merci pour l'invitation. This mask do. Who would have thought that would be a thing? In honor of Pop Montreal, the first thing I'm going to read is a poem called Rock and Roll. When I was 13, something very important happened. I became a member of Columbia House. And for a person in the suburbs, a young kid who can't go to the record store because it's too far of a bike ride, it was a major event. And so that's how I got acquainted with rock and roll. Like that Lou Reed song says, how does it go again? And her life was saved by rock and roll. That's like the easiest line. How could I forget that? So the first poem is called Rock and Roll. I cut my feet, twisting and shouting goddamn obscenities on the hardwood floor. Just a riff of thee, and my teeth numb. My throat accepts thrilling smoke. Beer shuts up my bones. I crave in chorus. I have neglected family, friends, and the classics of literature and philosophy for your teenage Marx and middle-aged Jesus. I went to church and bought what I was sold. But I forgive you. You were always there for me, even tonight when my boyfriend's not into you and all my friends are texts. Who needs loneliness, old age, and death? Fuck it. Fuck it till it all bends to grace. In our pre-Columbia House days at my house, we didn't have a lot of CDs, but one that we did have is Dalida. And for some reason, my family, my immediate family and my extended family are huge fans of Dalida. We're a Dalida family. I didn't bring the CD because at the last minute, I'm like, what if I lose it? So I left the CD at home and I just brought the case. Yeah. Does everyone know who Dalida is? Chris, okay, j'espère. There's a thing on her Wikipedia. There's a whole pan of her career that's labeled Diva Trademark Years, which I think is all something we should all be striving towards. So this poem is called Dalida. Everywhere, all my life, she graced the path. Even now, at a cafe at the foot of Montmartre, chin-chinning with the one I love, I see a bust of Dalida, Dalida's bust, burnished by the millions who reach for her. My grandparents, staying at the same Rome hotel as her, presented her once with long-stemmed roses. Alighting on the gift, she broke into dramatic thanks, her accent a stone skipping over water. When everything was done, she bowed against the backlit door, all flowing silk and dipping pendants. This story is told with pride. When she was done commendingly at a karaoke in the village, a glimmer broke over every face, waiting for the soliloquy of the universally jilted Italian woman. Gigi, c'est toi là-bas dans le noir? Shy, in the dark, new to Montreal, I recited those lines like I did when I was young, with my cousin in my aunt's car, windows down, corn on both sides, when Dalida was goddess of summer drives, and that was all. Dalida, my guardian diva, I am very lucky to have you, having never asked for one. And there you are, at the foot of Montmartre, wreaths wilting at your base, gaze cast up in incorruptible bronze, singling me out with my tribute of pale rosé. I moved around a lot growing up, so place, both like physically and historically, is something that is haunting my work, not so much in verses, but more and more in my work. And I think with the events that we lived through in the spring, it forced a lot of people to sort of have a reckoning with where they live and all that, for the better or the worse. It could be a prison or a sanctuary or both or neither, but that's between you and your place. I'm not going to get involved. So this poem is called 5.5, 5,5, and it starts with a little epigraph by Adorno. It is a part of morality not to be at home in one's home. Very early in the morning, when dreams are still pouring into pillows and the first concerted beam of magenta strikes the old folks' home across the street, I have the place almost to myself. I go about my ghostly business, sipping coffee, parting blinds, peeling hard-boiled eggs. Then, at an agreed-upon time, almost exactly 8, hammers and hacksaws are took to new wood. They're carving condos from the factory at the end of the street, where the delicate chocolate-shelled whippet was confected in 1927, when refrigeration was finally introduced to trucks. The factory employed probably the whole street and all the other streets converging. And on mornings like these, when I'm feeling particularly leisureful, I like to think of who they were, the people who lived here before me. What kind of existence was delimited for them? Most likely large, practicing families with hats and manners, demure dignities, and catastrophic mores, organized around the church, the morning shift, and bread and butter for the kids, who were discouraged early on from school in order to help with rent. Or maybe not. Maybe once the whistle blew, a few returned to their rooms and painted in modernist styles and wrote lesbian poetry, leading radical inner lives despite the formal trappings. But now, I just flew from one cliché to the wide open arms of another. In any case, it's safe to say they lived and worked and died. Perhaps it's okay to live and work and die. And what about these people now? Where are they going with galloping hearts? I can't get over how beautiful they are, with their specific gaits and childhood damages and daunting resolve. Are they freer, better, more capable of regard? And what about me, dicing onions to disco for an omelet I'm making for the man I love when he wakes with little eyes and kisses the fold of my neck? Am I worthy of it? This act of taking place in the extra space I was afforded on the backs of all the dead and the license of their wildest dreams. In April, during the lockdown, I found a dead squirrel in my shed. And I don't know if you guys know this, but before they die, they build a nest, which is called a dray, and they go in it, and then they just fucking die in the nest. So it was kind of a very strange feeling, and of course I was like, oh, there was a poem coming and all that. And I really thought I was writing a poem about a dead squirrel. And then I read this months later to a friend, and she was like, this is totally about the pandemic. And then I realized, fuck, you're right, because April was the height of when everyone was dying, especially older people in care facilities and less than human conditions, let's just say it. So I think that idea of dignity was lurking behind this poem, but I wasn't aware of it at the time. The poem is called When Everything Is Over, Hold My Bones. It built its dray there, behind the sun-gorged folding chair, stored in a corner of the shed on the first real day of snow. And it took a while to discern the squirrel ensconced in it, dead, the dead thing, and yet preserved, half swallowed by its final bed, curled up on itself like the crown of the earth, resting on a pillow of rodent down and junk. There was barely a smell, except for a breath of breached air and declining wood. I shut the door like an uninitiate stumbling upon a secret church. Later, I went back to look. I couldn't shake the image of a sepulcher crossed by a shaft of light. I left it like that, a day or two, long enough to muster the courage and the coarseness to shovel it into the trash. The starlings were back, and everywhere around me, grass was sprouting from the loam. Thank you very much. Merci.
Merci, William. Il a fallu que je me déplace pendant la lecture. Je m'excuse, mes choux. Je peux-tu le dire? OK. Donc, je suis vraiment excitée de ma prochaine invitée, qui est parfaitement bilingue, possiblement trilingue, possiblement quadrilingue. Je ne lui ai jamais demandé. Puis, j'ai lu plein de ses hymnes, puis son dernier m'a particulièrement happée. C'était extraordinaire. What's it like to be a female brown artist? Puis, elle m'a envoyé une belle petite bio dans laquelle j'ai appris des choses que je ne savais pas sur toi, hein, Christina. Fait que je vais la lire. Ou pas, parce que je l'ai momentanément perdue. Donc, Christina le Catastrophe, c'est quelqu'un qui fait des hymnes depuis plusieurs années. Elle a eu plusieurs pseudos, puis elle est là depuis très longtemps. Je la croise souvent dans les exposines. C'est quelqu'un qui travaille beaucoup dans le paraître puis le faire devenir. C'est quelque chose que j'aime beaucoup. Elle travaille aussi avec des t-shirts, des macarons, etc. Puis c'est toujours avec des phrases complètement surprenante. Je trouve ça extraordinaire. Puis, I can't wait to hear her. I don't know if she's going to read in French or in English, but I know that it's going to be extraordinary. I cannot wait. Christina le Catastrophe.
Je suis un peu nerveuse. Est-ce que vous m'entendez bien? Ouais. Voulez-vous que je lise sur le racisme ou sur le sexe? C'est la salle qui décide. Racisme? So the crowd chose for me to read about racism. Being a female brown artist means living your whole life with your darker skin pigmentation, being unaware of how people perceive you because of it, how people treat you because of it, and then having a rude awakening to the reality of it all. We are not treated equally. It means from that moment on, whenever treated differently, you ask yourself over and over if it has to do with your race or maybe something else. Do white people ever have to wonder the same way you do? You doubt it. It makes you afraid of being judged at face value, or rather at race value. It means spending months wondering if after writing about racism, you're going to be forever pigeonholed as a race writer. One that writes about non-whites, for non-whites, and could only be appreciated by non-whites. It's true, it happened. It means some of your white friends telling you that they are tired of hearing about the race issue, and you wanting to scream at them, imagine how tiring it is to live through racism. It also means other brown people being upset at you for not talking about race sooner, for not being political enough. As a person of color, they need you to be more proactive, more vocal. But what if you don't want to write political stuff? What if all you want to do is write about dildos and celebrities? Why does a person of a color have to carry the burden of the world on their backs at all times? Being a female brown artist means having your work, your ideas, stolen by other people constantly, often by artists that are already more popular, more successful, and that already have more visibility than you. Sometimes it's ill intentions. A lot of the times it's not conscious. That's worse. It means it's automatic. People will steal your ideas without questioning themselves. They just claim them as theirs, as if your mind and your heart are for them to own, like they're entitled to it. That's some fucked up colonialist bullshit mentality right there. Your ideas are not a land for them to steal. Your heart is not for them to profit from. The hard work of dark-skinned people is not for them to prosper from. Being a female brown artist also means that if you're part of a certain scene and you call out someone for stealing your ideas, you know that people will not take you at your word. They will not side with you. They will try and protect the reputation of the thief. They will turn against you. They will call you bitter, crazy. People only like you as long as you don't cause trouble with the status quo. So what do? You bite your tongue and you stay silent. It also means dating other artists who will only like you as long as you act as their support and you don't have expectations of it being mutual. It also means having friends who will only like you as long as you act as their support and you don't have expectations of it being mutual. Because you're brown, you see, you can only be a sidekick, never the main protagonist. The narratives cannot be about you, unless it's about race, of course. For years, you are loyal. You encourage them, you help them achieve their goals. You laugh at their jokes, loud. You act the good crowd. You think it's your role because that's all you've ever seen around you and on TV. You think it's the best you'll ever get. You settle for that role. It's insidious. Do you think it's your role too? Everyone is complicit in this dynamic. But one day you get an itch. You want the spotlight too. You want to be heard, but the friends and lovers you supported disappear. They don't like you as much now that you want to be more than their laughing crowd. So that's that. I'll read one from this. It's called À ton insu, Part 1, Unbeknownst to You. Just little things about relationships. After we finally said our goodbyes in your Toyota, you dropped me by the Métro de l'Église. You had cried the entire last hour we spent together in your empty apartment. Your eyes were blood red, but mine had stayed cold and dry. I was completely caught off guard by the unraveling of your emotions. My lack of reaction was probably out of spite too. You used to always remark that I was more emotional than you ever wished me to be during our brief, stupid affair. I had it then to prove you wrong until the 11th hour. To this day, I don't quite understand why you did cry. You weren't the one being left behind after all. As soon as I sat down in the subway that day, the tears poured uncontrollably. I didn't care who was witnessing my weeping, just as long as it wasn't you. My glasses fogged up real quick. I couldn't see anything. I took them off to wipe them. Through the blur opposite me, I could make out movement, repetitious and mechanical. When I put my glasses back on, I realized that the man in front of me had his dick out in his hand. He was smiling at me and masturbating to my fucking tears. And that's the picture that I took of him to send to the police. That's it. Thank you.
Merci, Christina. Donc, une des choses que vous savez probablement pas de moi, c'est que dès que je me retrouve sur une scène, je me sens comme compelled to tell the truth. Donc, je trouve que je t'ai pas présentée aussi magnifiquement que j'aurais pu parce que, en taponnant mon sel, j'ai mis à la corbeille vos présentations, mes chéris. Fait que là, I retrieved them and I'm going to read them now. Parce que Christina, comme je vous ai dit, elle a plusieurs pseudos. Puis l'idée, un de ses pseudos, c'est Polyglotte. Puis elle s'appelle, puis c'est magnifique parce que ça décrit tellement bien, une person printing tragicomédienne who hoards photos, fruit and famous people and her exes alike. Everyone should be frightened. Sometimes soft, sometimes harsh. She offered, as you saw, intimate glimpse into relationship, trauma, technology, and more. Thank you. Donc, vous allez être contente d'apprendre que pour ma prochaine invitée, j'ai aussi retrouvé sa bio. Non, mais ça va-tu bien, la vie? Donc, I'm really excited to have her read because I've met her and discussed with her. I've read her book that I love, but I've never heard her read, so I'm really excited. So, Erin Robinson, she's a poet and interdisciplinary artist. She's working with ecological imaginaries. Her debut collection of poetry is Rad Cosmology that I have in my hand. And she has something coming really soon with House Press, a chapbook named Liquidity. She did a lot of collaborative performance work with Andrea de Kircher and Anna Sibyl Müller, like This Ritual is Not an Accident, Facing Away from That Which is Common, and Polymorphic Microbe Bodies. Originally from Cortes Island, Erin now lives in Montreal and she's gonna read for us. Thank you, Erin Robinson.
Bonsoir. Wow, it's what a joy to be in a room with bodies and in a room. Thank you so much for making this happen, Catherine and Pop Montreal. It's really different than Zoom. It's really different, clearly. But I think this is the first time that I've been with people again in this way. The chapbook that is coming really soon is right here. I just met it tonight for the first time, and I'm just so grateful to David Bradford, who you heard earlier, and Anahita for this beautiful book. And I'm just going to read from it. To iterate a star cream and divulge these contours to myself. Creature curvature, rolling muscle zone. Wind, 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 wind. It's the first of fall. I don't care about brains. A nervous system today said that for her, resistance is itself a tonic. And now I'm back in the reading room. Little gusts of self-pleasure in the head. There's so much thinking to do with the throat. It sprawls, it drools. This ardent tube of relations, I call myself to get through the grammar I am to the water I am, but it moves, it rules. But I was online a mere 2 hours and got that howling hole feeling. Down networks nimble for rancors, many heads, griefs, mutations. There I met a verbal energy cop. There I Googled von Loxima Cunningamby, saw her lacily exchanging garbage for spirit. In sentience's undulations, in totalizing weather, great displacer, big breather, uncontainer, riding into the mouth of whoever. There I walked a very long throat. At the top of the throat was a hole going someplace. I asked for an idea. And now I'm back in the reading room finding a Ford is a limit full of holes. Poetry's money flows through those. Here's some gentle magenta wealth. Here's some lube, some food for the possible. I said to the hole, what do I do? Nobody holds the leash. I just drag it around like a style. In amorphous night-scented anxieties. Doom is such a deadly disease. Worse, better, like linear time, has a limited range of moves. It's easy to run out. Everything more than doom is improbable. Osmotic, everywhere leaking into the air. World War. Thinking is my fighting, said Virginia Woolf, in the middle of war. Are we in the middle of war? A war with the sea, a war with the air. Who will wear what the world wore? Lucid and wetly speaking. There's no war, you idiots. Learn the language. Hot pink sex. You don't need money. This starts with, the title is from Alice Notley. I don't believe we can save our civilization. I do believe it. In vibratory consequence to the sea, I fall into the dimensions of an hour. The orcas are done, Karen told me last night over dinner. An oceanic anoxic tide of unfulfilled brain sadness, done to in space, encircle the earth in loops as lived undulations, done. Bodies singing voluminous extensions into the sawn-off oceans, done breathing out the tops of their heads. Along the same path, the soul blasts at death, out the top of your head. Sphincter through which eject spumes of feral joy, or fear breaths. For nearness to be whales must be. And will continue, bleaching our wealth, our fame. At Noba's last night in her partly built house with a feverish child, she said, time is a school. She said, you can use that. Earlier, she said, there's this thing I always forget to do, which is breathe in through the top of my head and exhale out my chest, arms, legs, and crown like a sunburst. Not only, but also. In no tent lives the deer. This title is from Sarah Hamming. Can you take something out of this world, yes or no? Tanya is pruning the roses, yes. Poetry is access to information, yes. Is a rose an archive? No. A memory, yes. Of silky scents, yes. A garment? No. Many garments? Yes. Yes, fresh the dress of the mind, so I know. I court a form, yes. Windward on the processual rosebuds, yes. Or know how I came to yes in the arboretum of sexual flowers, yes, and bite this kumquat and live. In the woveness, streaming, yes, infloresce, petroleum ghost parts, yes. In the glossy vocal yes powers, the bird yells of power, the rotations of softness. All this I remember happening. yes, coming to pass away a spell. To become glossy, yes, inferred, touting instruments, yes, of not death, nor shortage, nor no. If you see the book, there's little footnotes. The line, bite this kumquat and live, is from Alice Notley, and ghost parts is a phrase from Michael Stone. This title is by Mallarmé. Let us help the Hydra clear away the fog. Trying to understand the distinction between form and material, fog will be helpful. For example, a party you enter as materials. As fog, form filled with speech. For instance, in 2012, the Arctic was half ice-free, sipping wine into one's beauty, so urgently filling up form. Your materials speak, flit, or bounce, but form, the Arctic, will be completely ice-free in our lifetime. Opens for you as hostess, a hydra admitting an ecstatic zoo, or form uses you. You're the plume, not the name. Your currency, you don't need travel, and the floors were dirty, so I cleaned them. This is one technique to expel fog, formed from processual time, explaining, for example, my ability to digest plastics, or my repose, this wish to be a garden simply falling into dialogue with whosoever flagellates visits me here, multivalent babysitter of the spangled mind. Portals and holes. A portal is open, and things flow in and out, or they stop flowing. Less about content and more this flow of content is our aphrodisiac. Today I read about how corals spawn once a year after the first full moon of summer. Reefs pulse in pink weathers of jellies, spurts, spumes, a blizzard of group sex. They can also asexually bud anytime. To be green like hot pinks, erotic purples lined with shouting yellow nipples. Sexually asexual flower animals of feel. Wave moods of medicine branching into buoyant pleasure gardens who bring the creature out of the hole, into the riotous excess plosions. I sit at my desk in my apartment hole, reading Sully Rolnick, who says, art is thus an ecological reserve for the invisible species that populate our animal body in its generous, germinative life, a wellspring of courage for confronting the tragic. The moods of waves, the medicines of whole dwelling, lives we haven't yet invented in our very large selves as we dissolve. And I'm going to end with a poem about the moon. I was somehow thinking recently about my moon education in grade 7 or so, and about how it's this dead chunk of rock that really has zero life on it, and I thought that suddenly seemed like very suspicious information. And so I did some research, meaning a Google search, and there's all this new research about the moon, that it's like very I don't even think it's that new actually, but this article was new. And the moon is, first of all, just incredibly geologically active, so it has moonquakes all the fucking time. It's like shaking a lot. And it also, in its composition, which I did not know, is very much exactly like a planet. It has a core and a mantle and a crust. Dear non-planet, irrational, barren moon, they said you were geologically dead, and they would say that. O ancient quaking queen, who makes the seeds cream? The oceans move in me, whose calendar revolves, whose calendar is change, who walks me home? O moon, Make me less blurry. Make me a detailed plan through swarms of death, beside and below, traveling this edible, sprawling body, through abyssal fractals, leaning back to my origin's origin, continuing in the deep element to find my mind, by flap and by shimmer, onward toward I do not know, into the deep curtain, the vast I. Sometimes stupidly certain I am totally lost or have never been. It makes me so happy just to try to describe the delicate green landings of the pine. Flying in a hectic, jagged way, I would spend all my money admiring your language in moon-baked sheets, the small blue, the oily black, woad when I first saw you, and my concepts went driving slowly away, like upside down against a wall, taking in your light, transforming it in my body, pressure, succession, heat. How to say it straight, what turns around into a swan, a pulse, leaking all over the floor, dissolving in it. The wound gets healed, the wound gets healed, oh moon. Merci, thank you.
Thank you so much, Erin. Oh, guys, I miss that so much. Thank you for being here with us in the room, friends and loves and family and lifelines. Merci à tout le monde qui était là aussi sur le live stream. Ça, c'est une des choses merveilleuses. On peut maintenant participer à plein d'événements qui ne sont pas nécessairement dans nos villes, puis voir des lecteurs, lectrices qu'on n'aurait peut-être pas vus avant. I would like to thank so much the Rialto Theatre. God, it's so beautiful here. And Pop Montreal. And Art Pop. Hugo, qui s'est bien occupé de nous autres. C'est les coordinateurs qui ont permis la soirée aussi. Puis je voudrais dire merci à all the Pop Montreal staff. I did not have time to meet you all, people, but I like you. Thank you for the sound. Thank you for the live stream. Thank you for the photograph. Thank you for the doors. And thank you to have made us feel so safe when we arrived and you knew what to do. And it's so glad. Ça fait du bien à l'âme d'avoir une lecture comme ça. Merci. I would like to thank also the partnership that we did with small presses, House Press, Vehicle Press, Rodrigol. And I would like to thank Exposine, and if you don't know him, people in the room, I would like to present to you Louis Rastelli. So Louis Rastelli is the person behind Exposine. That's going to be November 28 and 29, right? And Volume, the foire that we're going to have from October 1st to 4 this year. It's going to be an hybrid, in person and also online. You can find everything that you want to know about Exposine and the foire volume and La Grande on the Archives Montréal website. And also readers, thank you so much to you. And I want everyone to hear your name again. Oh, and also live stream. Faites comme si vous entendez pas ça. It is Louis that have your check. Please take them before you go. Okay. So thank you, wonderful readers. David Bradford, Lucille de Peslouan, Hélène Cho-Bradley, Marie Darzini, William Vallière, Christina Le Cadastrophe, and Erin Robinson. I am Catherine Cormier-Larose, here in the Rialto for Pop Montreal and Archives Montréal. Thank you.
Never agree.